Welcome to week 2 of your Cozy Home Design Reset. This is a 12-week series designed to help you finally create a home that feels like you, a home that you love, without trends, overwhelm, or a big budget. Last week was all about learning to see. You deprogrammed the algorithm aesthetic, learned where to find real-world design inspiration, noticed what actually moves you, and started paying attention to how certain spaces and design elements actually make you feel. And if you did the homework exercise, you're probably starting to notice something interesting. Maybe a little clarity, maybe a little confusion, maybe a little, okay, now what? And this is the point where people usually get stuck, because this is the point where we think, okay, I need to define my design style. And we think that if we can just pick the right label or the right combination of labels, then we will instantly have some kind of like mind-blowing clarity and cool factor, and we'll know ourselves deeper and we'll have like an edge on everyone else. But hey, guess what? You contain multitudes. So no combination of prefabricated identity design style labels is ever going to make you feel like you have figured it out. So we are going to do things a little differently, because the goal of this video is not to slap a design label on you and send you on your way. It's to give you decision-ready clarity so that you can actually trust yourself when designing your home. Let's start by redefining what personal style even is, because most of us have been taught to think of style as an identity. Is my style more minimalist or more glam or more boho or more mid-century modern? But that kind of thinking is a trap, because not only are those labels generic and impersonal and broad and vague, but they're also misleading. Because by that logic, we think if I like mid-century modern, then my design style is mid-century modern, and then I must buy mid-century modern things, and then I will like the things because they are mid-century modern and so am I. I promise you will never be satisfied with your home if you design it that way. So what do we do instead? If you did last week's exercise, you're probably starting to notice certain patterns emerging. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, all of these videos are going to build on each other. I highly recommend going back to week 1 and starting there. You're not too late to catch up. We got you. You're probably noticing words that are showing up again and again, or feelings that you keep returning to. Or you might notice certain spaces or elements that make your body feel more at ease than others. Newsflash, that's not an accident. Your personal style is not an identity label. It is a tool. You don't need to define your style. You need to discover it. If style is doing its job, you're not constantly second guessing yourself. You're not wondering whether something's allowed. You're not trying to justify your choices. You're just deciding. And I think that's really important, because I think that most of the overwhelm that people experience when trying to create their homes isn't about taste or style. It's about decision fatigue. So if you've ever felt like style, like the idea of style is this big, overwhelming thing that you need to solve, I want you to let that go. You don't need a label. What you need is clarity. Clarity is about 3 things: what you're drawn to, what makes you feel grounded, and what consistently feels wrong. So when you stop focusing on labels and start fighting for clarity, things shift. You're going to notice that you stop endlessly saving pins and TikToks trying to see yourself inside of them. You stop second guessing yourself and start trusting your instincts, right? And that's the goal. If personal style is a tool and not an identity, then the next question is, where does it come from? When people ask how to find their personal style, what they're looking for is a shortcut. We want a quiz or a formula or some moment when it all clicks and we reach enlightenment. But it doesn't work that way. And I know this might all seem a little like esoteric, so I want to give a concrete example that I think more people can relate to. I want to talk about fashion. I spent the better part of my 20s dressing for other people. Most of what I wore was based on teen Vogue advice of what people, specifically men, find attractive, or based on social media advice of how to look put together and polished. And I looked cute, don't get me wrong, but I also felt lost. I felt like I was floundering and like I never really knew myself. And every couple of months, I would tear apart my closet and Google how to find your personal style and do my 3-word exercise and make my Pinterest board and try and find my box. And it just never worked. I never felt like I reached it, because I was trying to work from the outside in. I thought that if I could wrestle my personal aesthetic into the perfect combination of labels, then I would understand myself, like who I am. But I had it backwards, because the truth is, I didn't need to find my style in order to understand myself. I needed to understand myself in order to find my style. And it wasn't until I stopped dressing for other people and started dressing for myself that I began to feel like I actually had any sense of style at all. And I think the same concept applies to interior design. You don't need to define your design style in order to understand yourself. You need to understand yourself in order to define your design style. You're not going to find your style in a BuzzFeed quiz or by picking a label off of a Crate and Barrel shelf. In fact, I would argue that you don't find your style at all. You discover it. You can only uncover it by noticing patterns. And this is where last week's work matters. Okay, so if you skipped video 1, I highly recommend you go back, you do that exercise first, and then you come back here, okay? Because you spent the last week collecting real world inspiration images of things that move you, things that inspire you, things that take your breath away. And you wrote down words associated with them. And now we're looking for the words that repeat, because I would be surprised if there were not themes that repeat in your inspiration. I did this exercise along with you, and some of the words that repeated for me were intimate, playful, delicate, dreamy, whimsical, but also strong, connected, rebellious. And mine are going to be different from yours. Maybe yours were peaceful, cozy, grounded, or energized, inviting, unique, artistic. And you, like me, probably have some contrast. My board has playful and delicate, but also strong and rebellious. That's good. That's a good thing, because it means that we're starting to create a more nuanced view of your style. Your personal style reveals itself through repetition, because when the same themes and feelings start showing up for you across different spaces and homes and inspiration sources, even art forms, like my board has interior design, but it also has photography and sculpture and fashion and crafts that I did and recent memories that I made. So when certain words start repeating through all of those things, that's the information. That's what we're trying to get to. And this is why copying aesthetics so often falls flat. When you skip this step and jump straight into how something looks, you miss the nuance. You miss the spark, the magic. Two people can love the same design style and want completely different homes, because style labels describe appearances, not the experience. That almost rhymed. That's cute. Your personal style lives in the overlap between what you're consistently drawn to, what supports your nervous system, and what actually fits your life. This is not something that you pick once and lock in forever, okay? It evolves with you, it grows with you, it moves with you, it breathes with your life. And when you start thinking about style in this way, things shift. Your taste stops feeling chaotic and starts feeling coherent. It feels layered, it feels like you. And it's okay that it doesn't fit neatly into a box. How do we actually go about applying this? Like when you're standing in Target holding the brass bulldog sculpture, how do you know if it belongs in your home? If it fits your personal style? Most people only ask one question when they're making a design decision. They ask, do I like this? But that question's too vague to be helpful. It's not specific enough. We have to remember that clarity comes from contrast. So knowing what works for you, knowing what belongs in your home really starts to make sense when you also know what doesn't. And that's why the next step to unlocking your personal style is to understand your no's. And this is where a lot of people get tripped up, because I don't think that your no list is about things that you hate. It's about things that don't fit your lifestyle, things that cost you energy, right? Something can be beautiful and still be wrong for you. You can admire something from afar. You can say, I love that for you. I love that over there. I love the idea of that thing, but it doesn't belong in my home because it costs me energy. So take notes. Here are a few ways that you can notice when something is not a fit. Number 1, we have the tension test. Okay, the first thing to pay attention to is your body. Your body knows the way. Some things are just going to create a kind of unexplainable tension for you, like a feeling of unease. If a design choice makes you feel like you have to behave differently in your own home, it's on the no list. Next up, the friction test, okay? A lot of our no's are gonna show up through friction. These are things that look good in theory, but in real life, they feel annoying or draining or stressful or high maintenance. If something is constantly taking more energy from you than it's giving back, it's not supporting you. And that's a sign it probably belongs on your no list. And finally, we have the I like it, but test. And this is one that most of us ignore because we don't want to admit or believe that we can love something but not need to own it, because this society has taught us that owning the thing is the thing. You might love how something looks in a photo or a hotel or someone else's home, but know instinctively that it wouldn't feel good in yours. You might know why, you might not know why. It doesn't matter. Trust that instinct. Like, that is information. Use it. Being able to say, I love this, but it's not for me, is one of the clearest signs of personal style. I think it shows a really strong sense of self and sense of knowing. If you're still struggling with this concept, then I recommend grabbing that workbook that's linked in the description. Totally free, no strings attached. It's just a companion workbook to this series. It goes a little bit more in depth, and it has a list of questions that you can ask yourself to help you really find your nose. Your do it today action for this week is to write your personal yes, no list. To use everything that we talked about, the patterns you noticed last week and the signals that we just covered, I want you to write down 5 yes words. These are feelings, qualities, emotions, or experiences that light you up. And then I want you to write down 5 no words, okay? These are things that drain your energy, that do not support how you want to live. And just like we did last week, when we're writing our no list, we're going to stay away from aesthetics and labels. So we're not going to say no industrial or no mid-century modern or no boho. Instead, we're going to write feelings like cold or harsh or too precious or uninviting or visually loud or hard to maintain or overexposed or feels curated. Stick to abstract concepts, stick to broad categories, stick to feelings, stick to gut, okay? Once you understand your no's, your design choices are going to get so much easier. You're not going to waste any more time second guessing yourself or impulse buying or trying to force something to work just because it's on trend and you bought it on TikTok Shop. We've all been there. And that is when your yes list really starts to shine, because it has boundaries to frame it and to make it all make sense. And remember, your list does not need to be perfect or permanent, okay? It's just a starting point. It's a filter that we're going to use as we move forward into more concrete, more tangible topics. We're going to come back to this list next week when we start talking about furniture placement and layout, how to set your home up to support you, which I'm really excited about. Okay, I'll see you next week.